Every 4 years, the US presidential election makes headlines around the world. The road to victory for a US leader, however, is never as simple as whoever wins the most votes nationwide. You may have heard that it's ultimately determined by this thing called the Electoral College. You've probably also heard someone say, it's really complicated. Well, since this system is what helps determine who becomes the next leader of the free world, it's worth it to break things down. The Electoral College, in its most basic sense, is a voting system. But when US citizens vote, they actually select a group of people called electors. The number of electors varies state by state, depending on the total number of senators and representatives each state has in the US Congress. States each get 2 senators, and their number of representatives is based on their respective populations. On a side note, Washington, D.C. isn't a state, but the nation's capital gets 3 electors. There are currently 538 electors across the entire United States, and they form what is called the Electoral College. Each elector gets 1 vote. A candidate must win an absolute majority of 270 or more of the 538 votes to become president. On election day, when voters cast their ballots for president, those are added up into statewide tallies. In 48 of the states and in Washington, D.C., it's winner takes all, meaning the candidate who wins the popular votes statewide gets all of the electoral votes for that state. The outliers are Maine and Nebraska, which assign their electoral college votes using a proportional system. After the polls close, state results are announced, and the number of electors each candidate has won is calculated. Whoever has earned a majority of electors, that magic number of 270 or more, is said to have won the election. But the nominee technically has not won until the electors meet about a month later in their respective states to cast their ballots. Appointed by political parties in their states, the electors are pledged to support the winning party's candidate, though they don't always do so. After one nominee has at least 270 electoral votes, the process is over, and he or she becomes president-elect and will be inaugurated in January. Usually, the Electoral College votes are a formality, with election night results in each state being converted into electoral votes. But don't forget, electors are people. They're expected to vote for the candidate that won their state's popular vote, and many states have laws that require electors to do just that. But sometimes those laws have been challenged. And there have been cases where electors have selected another candidate. These so-called faithless electors, however, are rare. During this process, it's also possible that no candidate comes up with a majority in the Electoral College. In that case, the House of Representatives would choose the president and the Senate, the vice president. But another more common quirk of this system is that it is also possible for the Electoral College winner to have lost the popular vote or been selected by fewer overall voters. This happened in 2000, 2016, and 3 times in the 1800s. The role of electors is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, so getting rid of this admittedly unpopular and cumbersome system would take a constitutional amendment, or it might possibly be circumvented by an interstate compact where states just give their electoral votes to the popular vote winner. But either approach would be difficult given the highly partisan climate that dominates the U.S. political scene. So while there's debate over whether the Electoral College should be changed or scrapped altogether, it is the system in place for now that America will use to determine the winner of the presidential vote.